Hello and welcome to today's broadcast. I'm Davina. I'm your host of this. Let's call it How to Fight Fascism. 3 easy steps. I don't know what those 3 easy steps are, but there's definitely a lot to report in terms of fascist and opposing fascist developments this week. So you might have heard the story of how Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, turns out he's been receiving very lucrative, very luxurious gifts for 20 years from his friend, multi-billionaire Harlan Crow, who claims not to be purchasing influence when he gifts his friend, Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, luxury boat trips, private plane rides, a week every year in the, I don't know how to pronounce it, Adirondacks, that place, and where he gets to hobnob with other movers and shakers in the conservative world, and then gets to be on the Supreme Court bench, one of the three arms of the United States government, one of three branches, co-equal branches of government, and hears cases that often pertain to the business interests of Harlan Crow Esquire. So the new development of today is that another Supreme Court justice, another right-wing Catholic, friend of Leonard Leo, this one, Neil Gorsuch, and he had a property on the market for a few years. It didn't sell. And then 9 days after he was appointed as a Supreme Court justice, he sold his property to the head of a powerful law firm that subsequently had a lot of clients appear before the Supreme Court. And he made an amount of profit that he disclosed on his reporting forms. But guess which square Supreme Court Justice Neil Gorsuch left blank? He left blank the name of the buyer of his property. So he didn't disclose who he was indebted to, or who he was grateful to for this timely purchase 9 days after he was appointed as a Supreme Court Justice. So up on my screen, I have the slightly good news, good development with regards to all of this pretty naked corruption on the part of the Republican-appointed Supreme Court justices, which is that somebody, finally, someone on the Finance Committee in the Senate, in this case, Democrat Senator Wyden, Ron Wyden, he is now requesting Harlan Crow, GOP mega donor and friend extraordinaire, generous friend extraordinaire to Clarence Thomas, for details of these generous gifts. So hopefully once he's opened that door, he will also get onto this today's development of Neil Gorsuch and that naked influence purchasing in terms of selling his property to the owner of a law firm 9 days after being appointed to the Supreme Court. I would like to have a little quick shout out to Tuckham's leaving Fox News and the coveted 8 p.m. news slot. So that's when I say Tuckham's, I mean Tucker Carlson, that fantastic purveyor of, hey Bob, that fantastic purveyor of disinformation, fear-mongering, hate-mongering, potent use of laughter. Tucker is famous for his giggle, ha ha, very derisive, very potent in context of escalating fascism. Now, I'm just going to zoom out quickly, big picture, to give my understanding of fascism. Yesterday, I saw that Madeleine Albright noted that fascism is not an ideology, it's a process. Oh, thanks, Gary. Gary's come back remembering me from Periscope and is happy to see me again. Thank you, Gary. So fascism, if it's not an ideology, it's a process. Yes, it's a process of hijacking democracies, using the power of any dissatisfaction, any cognitive dissonance, and using it to hoodwink a significant enough portion of a population into handing over too much credibility to con artists who are hijacking democracies to subvert them into some kind of concentrated power system, whether you want to call it autocracy or totalitarianism, something with very concentrated power and a lot of violence to either impress or intimidate enough people into acquiescing to this perverted system of government. I mean, it predates democracy. Human beings have always been able to access not only the darkness in themselves, but access human protective instincts and use them to turn groups of humans against other humans. So fascism is just a very high level, formalized way of doing that, using democracy as a host body in which to cultivate hate and fear against stigmatized groups, so that also you're harnessing the atom-splitting power, the transgressive glee of violating societal norms. So anything that decent people have agreed not to do, we don't denigrate Jews for being Jewish. We don't, or we try to refrain from hating on people, on a whole group, just because some members of that group have committed crimes, even horrific crimes. So part of America clung to its decency after 9/11. It was hard because some members of some religion perpetrated an assault on domestic soil. Pearl Harbor, people tried to cling to their decency, but the failure of decency resulted in imprisoning Japanese Americans, getting them to forfeit their businesses, their homes, their incomes, their savings, their lives, and shunting them off into camps where they weren't killed, but they suffered deprivation. They suffered years of loss of freedom and loss of prosperity and loss of livelihood, much loss. And that was a fallout from an attack on American troops in Hawaii, and an unexpected attack. So following the unexpected attack of 9/11, there was definitely fallout in that there was too much support. Support was too easily cultivated for a war in Iraq that was not well-founded, well thought out, or well-intentioned, really. The confusion and the fear was capitalized on, and the hostility and resentment. The fear of, we look weak, we have to show strength to prevent further attacks. The Iraqi war was definitely a show of strength. George Bush wielded the power of the American military in order to make America look big again, like a pufferfish, instead of hurt and weak. It was definitely hurt, but weakness is a subjective designation. And fascists, people abusing their power, often use that fear. They often fearmonger around the idea of, we appear weak. Donald Trump does this all the time. He says, people are laughing at us because I'm not in power. And people are laughing at us because Biden is weak. When Donald Trump was a figure of comedic focus internationally during his time in office. He was famous for being laughed at by international figures. So for him to try to use that shows that he has an audience that have an appetite for ignoring reality and for soaking up this rhetoric that he feeds to them. I am your strength. I am your, what did he say of himself? He said, I am your justice. I was your voice in 2016. Now I am your justice. I am your retribution. That is a very fascist thing to say, because it's asking the listeners, it's asking a receptive audience to conflate him with justice itself, him with the power and strength of righteous anger and retribution. I am your justice. And when people attack me or accuse me of crimes, really, they're accusing you of crimes, dear audience, dear people who are, dear dupes who are sufficiently susceptible to this kind of manipulation, that you have an appetite for what I will feed you. And in that way, fascism is also the symbiosis between people who lack a working explanation of the world. People who are so attached to a white privilege status quo that they're eager to accept Trump as their champion of white privilege preservation. That's what Trump is to people. He is a champion of white privilege preservation because they have a fear of loss, a fear that somewhere a Black person might be considered as a way to balance out in previous injustices of Black people being excluded from consideration. If you've seen in schools where a Black student has become, in Australia we call it ducks. What do you call it in America? Magna cum laude? What do you call it to be top of a school? Anyway, they've won the highest honors. And for some reason, for the first year ever, the school authorities will consider that it's necessary to have the honors be shared. So the Black student won, but the white student who came in second will also stand at the podium, because this year we're all about sharing. And it's just a reflection of how much it abrades some people's egos to acknowledge Black excellence when it occurs, because they're too used to an established history of celebrating white people and failing to celebrate the achievements of Black people. And people will say, oh, well, minorities have plenty of success that's recognized, so if Black people aren't recognized, it's just their fault, they're not excellent enough. False. False. There has been for a long time willful, purposeful, ideologically motivated exclusion of Black excellence from consideration, because people inherit pathological worldviews. And there was 400 years worth of rationalizing slavery as a good thing, that white people were inherently worthy and born to rule and God-appointed masters. And that 400 years of calcified rationalizing of evil, of oppression, justified by deeming it to be God-ordained hierarchical ordering of the races of people via skin color, that rusts on and is more difficult to get rid of than people believed. So even in the present day, even if you go, oh yes, well, slavery ended, what happened to Reconstruction? It was undone through political upheaval, disputed presidential elections, and then a lot of the gains of Reconstruction were left to erode, were left unprotected. Federal troops that were positioned in southern states to prevent people from attacking Black voters and attacking Black officials in office, they were withdrawn, and gains were unwound. And people who could vote lost that ability, until we had once again a resurgence of a move for justice, a movement for justice, the demand for civil rights. It wasn't that Black people had never experienced voting before. They had, and the attacks and the lynchings and the false impositions of criteria to vote. Oh, you have to count how many bubbles are on this bar of soap. You have to be able to recite passages of the Constitution. All these artificial and humiliating hoops that white people contrived to make Black voters jump through in order to exercise their right to participate in this nation which they significantly helped to build, in which their unpaid, uncompensated labor constructed. I've got some comments from Bob, which I will check. Oh, August is here and says Adirondack. Thank you, because I needed help with that pronunciation. Adirondack. I hope I've got that right. I'm looking at your breaking it down into syllables, and I'm grateful for that help. Thank you. Christopher is here as well. Hello, Christopher. Nice to see you too. All right. So Bob says, I've lost my nephew to the dark side. Oh no. Oh dear. He's been exposed. Bob, he's a victim of exposure to very persistent, very pervasive anti-Ukraine propaganda. It's Russian propaganda that seeks to demonize Ukrainians and the Ukrainian president, Vladimir Zelensky, who is a hero around the world for his courage and his resistance to the murder, brutality, um, destruction of the invading Russian forces. So yeah, it would be really upsetting and sad for you to lose your nephew to that level of brain-eating propaganda. And my heart goes out to you, Bob. Keep trying as long as you have the energy for it, because you've got to retreat sometimes and look after yourself, because people can be very lost. And if they're very addicted to sources of disinformation, it's hard to get between them and what is feeding the dopamine circuitry in their brain, this pop, pop, pop of you're special, you believe this information, everybody else is sheep. That's another strong strategy of fascism, undermine people's relationship to sources of truth and evidence, and feed their sense of being special, feed their sense of superiority so that they know better than other people. Sure, nothing's verifiable, but they'll keep bombarding them, almost waterboarding them, except it's a much more pleasant experience than being waterboarded. People enjoy it. People come back for more. That it's not an appetite suppressant, it's an appetite enhancer. Come back, keep watching propaganda. You will feel amazing. And that's why I'm broadcasting, even without credentials to do so, a background in journalism, because you have to put up something to be potent enough to match the energy of those people whose dissatisfaction, whose ennui, whose boredom has led them down the dark path of corroding democracy through participating in a symbiotic consumption production of propaganda. So your nephew's consuming the propaganda, he's producing it to you, he's sharing it in his social networks. It's corrosive, it's disgusting, but it happens. And we always still have to work out our response. My response is to provide an alternate source of engagement. Hey, people, come listen to my broadcast. I'll also be interesting and engaging, and I'll respect you for taking the time out of your day to listen to me talk about more verifiable facts, and also to talk about a system of the world, a worldview that doesn't involve degrading others and organizing the world into a hierarchy of despising people according to skin color and ignoring history, because fascists require you to be blind to the past, blind to the fact that Vladimir Zelensky is Jewish, is not a Nazi, blind to the fact that Russia has very clearly invaded Ukraine for the purposes of acquiring territory, acquiring access to lucrative resources, oil, gas. Putin orchestrated an invasion of Ukraine to enrich himself, to expand his influence as part of a flourishing of his own colonizing energy. Yes, it is what it is. You told your nephew he should do a little more in-depth reading and shouldn't listen to propaganda. A friend got a dent from somebody else hitting him, and he said an immigrant hit him. I said, did the immigrant come from Germany like his grandfather? I also said, never ever use the word immigrant. Never use the word immigrant negatively in front of me. I could tell I got to him with that one comment. And that's awesome, Bob. What a good example for the rest of us. Because it's true, we're all immigrants to the United States, just we differ in terms of degrees of recency. So I'm a very recent immigrant to the United States, but your friend's grandfather's an immigrant to the United States as well. If we use it pejoratively, if we use it as if it's a word full of inherent negative implications, oh, they are outsiders, I have more value, I'm an authentic American, because my immigrant families are more recent immigrants. It's corrosive to our ability to form a functional society. That's what divides us, not the people standing up and saying, hey, don't use antisocial language. Don't erode trust between people. Do not resent the outsider. Do not speak do not attribute wrongdoing to someone just because they're an immigrant. So an immigrant hit your car, a person hit your car. Many native-born Americans can also hit your car because people habitually make mistakes when driving. But if you become someone whose blinders are now fixed on finding fault with those who you deem to be less worthy, less authentically American, less full of potential to contribute to America, because it's not true. Immigrants have significantly contributed to American greatness, to American economic flourishing, to American innovation. And the more innovators and inventors you have in a country, the better the economy does. And the more you allow women to participate in the workforce and you allow migrants and people of color, the more inclusive you are, the more people from different economic backgrounds can have children who succeed, the better off your country is. And that's demonstrated by a lot of research. Maybe I should get to the research so that okay, let's get some research. Hence, you are an American. I'm just waiting for my paperwork. It'll be a while, buddy. It'll be a while. We'll see. But there was some research I was looking about the number of inventors. Hang on. I also said my 7th great-grandfather was born in CT. Is that Connecticut? In 1640, and I considered myself an immigrant. Maybe CT is Connecticut. I'm getting better at recognizing acronyms for different states. I'm just thinking, oops, don't leave the website. I'm sharing this. Nope. Thank you for your patience. Maybe I should sing a little while I'm waiting. I was thinking it would be a great day to change the lyrics to I am 16 going on 17 to something about Tucker Carlson, as if I was in character of a Tucker audience member, and I was singing that I depend on him. And what am I going to do now because I'm lost? So, yes, I'm looking for inventors. Dang it. All right, I'll have to move off that topic because I cannot find that article right now. All right. But, and I also have to go pick up my children. Lucas wants me to sing. Yes, it was Connecticut. The oldest house in Elizabeth, New Jersey was built by your grandfather, Captain Nathaniel Bonnell, and it's the oldest house in that New Jersey city. That's very cool. All right, well, why don't we sing? I'm not going to sing I am 16 going on 17 because it needs some work. It's very off pitch at the moment, but I will sing. It's going to be a little bit of a throwback. I will probably sing Dear Theodosia because that's what I used to do all the time before the presidential election in 2020. So if you're unfamiliar with me, I got very excited about the Hamilton musical. Oh. All right. Oh, I'll need this. Oh, and I've got to share the screen, don't I? Dear Theodore. Oh, no, I'm going to share the screen with. Oh, Christopher's happy. Of course, you're happy. And then I'll go. Nope. That's better. All right.
Dear Theodosia, what to say to you? You have my eyes, you have your mother's name. When you came into the world, you cried and it broke my heart. I'm dedicating every day to you. Domestic life was never quite my style. When you smile, you knock me out, I fall apart. And I thought I was so smart. You will come of age with our young nation. We'll bleed and fight for you. We'll make it right for you. If we lay a strong enough foundation, we'll pass it on to you. We'll give the world to you, and you'll blow us all away. Someday, someday. Yeah, you'll blow us all away. Someday, someday. Oh, Philip, when you smile, I am undone. My son, look at my son. Pride is not the word I'm looking for. There is so much more inside me now. Oh, Philip, you outshine the morning sun. My son, when you smile, I fall apart, and I thought I was so smart. My father wasn't around. I swear that I'll be around for you. I'll do whatever it takes. I'll make a million mistakes. I'll make the world safe and sound for you. We'll come of age with our young nation. We'll bleed and fight for you. We'll make it right for you. If we lay a strong enough foundation, we'll pass it on to you. We'll give the world to you, and you'll blow us all away. Someday, someday. Yeah, you'll blow us all away. Someday, someday.
So yes, I'm not a singer, but I'm a big believer in the power of music to bring people together and to harness their emotions for a positive cause. So that's why I'll keep working on singing.
I'm in the midst of applying for residency right now. Wish me luck. Grammarly has again been a light.
Did he say applying for the presidency? Maybe he said residency. Anyway, thank you so much for being on the broadcast today. I'm absolutely a supporter of Joe Biden, and I'm anti-ageism just because in a context of fascism, it's really important to see people for who they are and what they bring to the table. And Joe Biden brings to the table an incredible wealth of achievement between himself and Kamala Harris over the last 2 years, investing in small businesses, unifying America and Europe against a common cause of resisting Russian expansionism, basically Nazism for our era. Russia is perpetrating horrors against the population of Ukraine in the same way that Hitler began with imposing horrors on people in adjoining European countries, as well as the Jewish population of Germany. So Christopher enjoyed the singing. Thank you, Christopher. And I will see you all again, hopefully sooner rather than later. I'm enjoying my little hairband thing here today. I'm like, with these fake pearls, I was thinking of dressing up as a character for a Tucker audience member, but that's still to be worked on, but I enjoyed it. I will see you all soon. Stay vigilant, stay engaged, keep your heart as fresh as you can, because fascists seek to encourage despair and disengagement. So the more you can do to stay engaged, stay talking to people. Bob, I admire the way you spoke to your neighbor. It's particularly incumbent on white people to speak up, because we're often invited to be in this clique of white people and so authentic or worthy or deserving of occupying space. And when we question other white people who say things that indicate their susceptibility to those arguments, we say, excuse me, aren't you an immigrant? Aren't you descended from immigrants recently? Hello? When we cause people to reflect in that way, we are doing a valuable service of pushing back against the contributing factors that help push fascism forward when we are trying to push fascism back, because essentially it's nihilism, it's the forces of destructiveness that brings everybody down. Even if you see them first bring down a scapegoated minority group, ultimately fascism hurts everybody in its path. The people of Germany also ended up suffering greatly as a consequence of having allowed a power-hungry, minority stigmatizing despot to come to power. They also suffered. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. I will say hello to Mr. Dav, but he's away at the moment. I'll be joining him soon. But yes, then we'll all be back and I'll do more broadcasts. See you all again soon. Take care. Bye-bye. Thanks, Bob. Thanks, Christopher.